Welcome to Better You,
a care podcast,
where we discuss topics such as
health and biohacking,
spirituality and mindfulness,
lessons and growth on business and life.
Overall, a podcast on self-betterment that will uplift and grow with you.
Put together by L
and J, sisters.
Welcome to another episode of Better You podcast. Do an episode on ADHD, condition that I discovered that I might have had all my life. So we wanted to chat about my discoveries, and maybe it will help somebody else as well. So this one is called Too Much Attention or Too Little Attention.
Ooh, very cool. Yeah, I've always in school been told that I might have it, but by teachers and like people who are authority, but my parents never took me in. Yeah. So I'd love to hear everything about it. So
absolutely. This will be great because you wanted to know whether you have it or not. I guess maybe at the end of this episode we'll discover, because I want to go over every single symptom of ADHD, especially in adults, and how it shows up. Mm-hmm. Where do you think you fit? Do you think you have too much attention or too little?
Good question. I think I definitely can't pay attention to something that's too long. Like, that's why I never watched a movie like by myself. I don't ever watch movies by myself. Like, I don't know if I actually have it. I'm just kind of my personal experience saying what I do in life. I also watch like certain like maybe YouTube videos on like fast forward too, or even like when people are showing me videos. Too. Yeah, like I watch everything on fast forward too. So like it's kind of bad.
And I skip characters I don't like. I read the end before I read the beginning. I have an issue. So
oh my gosh, that's horrible. I don't do that. When you told me that, I remember when we were in high school, you're like, yeah, I always read the end at the beginning. I'm like, what do you mean? But
it's funny because I thought these were just like some quirky traits. So honestly, like I didn't think of ADHD at all, because when I focus on something, I'm hyper focused. Like I am so focused that I can't move on. I can't do anything else. And I can focus on that for 12 hours straight and study it and learn it. And so that was something that I just thought I had. So it wasn't, I thought, okay, attention deficit people, they don't have enough attention. I don't have that issue. So it wasn't something that even crossed my mind until recently. So I had actually 2 people call me out on the fact that I might possibly have ADHD. So I was talking to my friend Harper, is currently completing a psychiatric residency. So has good knowledge about symptoms and ADHD and these sort of things. So they said, like, why don't you look into attention deficit disorder? And I said, I absolutely don't think I have that. I focus really well. They were talking about the different types of ADHD. There's actually 7 different types of it. And one type actually one of the symptoms is hyper-focusing on certain issues or hyper-focusing on certain things and having a hard time changing focus or being able to do more than one thing at a time, because your brain is so preoccupied with that specific thing that you have to do. Mm-hmm. So that was my first introduction into being like, like maybe I should look into it, because I do have a hard time dividing focus into different things. That happened. And then I had a patient who has ADHD and was telling me some of the things that he is going through, and I could really relate. And this patient recommended a book for me called Driven to Distraction and said it changed my life. Read it. And of course, my ADHD brain didn't read that. Like, he wrote it in a pen and paper, like scribbled it. I read it, Driven to Destruction.
Oh no. It could be this way if you don't treat it, I guess.
Yeah. And I loved it because I was like, ooh, so poetic, but I guess not so useful. Driven to Distraction is more useful of a title. So I got that book and I read it, and a lot of things did speak to me. So I thought that would be a cool thing to
Yeah.
kind of go over and what I've learned.
Yeah, before we dive into all the symptoms, I actually want to
Yeah.
say I remember always you focusing on certain subjects for long periods of time, like you before you move on to something else. And for me, actually, I always found that admirable because I
Mm-hmm.
can't, for the life of me, focus on one thing
One
for a
thing.
long time, you know? So that's why I always thought, like, oh, wow, that's why Wally's so good at like maybe studies, like you're really good at math, like all the subjects at school, like it came, like to me, I thought it just came so like well for
Naturally.
you because you're able, yeah, naturally, like you're able to just kind of like stay focused, be like this girl who's like always like, paying attention to that stuff. I was like, wow. But turns out, I guess
Yeah.
there's implications to it too. What you'll take from all of this, like, by learning about your symptoms, what happens about your hyper focusedness, like you could take all of these like information and always better yourself with it. Now you
Mm-hmm.
kind of, before it even starts like affecting again your life and leading to chaos and destruction, you kind of can pause, take a few moments to breathe, meditate, go hang out with friends. I guess that's
Yeah.
what you're gonna kind of like cover. Like you said, you can't just be one dimensional. You have to serve purposes in all areas
All
of your life. So
that's
that's a good tool to know. 100%.
well, also, even I was just thinking about it. This is down the line, but I mean, if I have kids in the future, knowing that it's a genetic condition, and just watching out for it for in your kids and teaching them coping skills or coping methods or different mechanisms like early on, I think would be so beneficial for them. I think knowledge is power, right? That at the end
I
of the
love
day,
that.
that's what it comes down to. So if they say that you have to have 15 of the symptoms that of the 20 symptoms that we're going to list, and I have most of them.
Oh wow, let's hear
Yeah.
it.
So number one, and then I kind of want you to comment on it as well. So
Of course.
the first one they go over is sense of underachievement and not meeting one's goals, and this is regardless of their accomplishments. So it is mostly the way the book was explaining is it's mostly why adults come for treatment for ADHD, ADD, is because they just say, I can't get my act together. Like I can't reach my goals. I can't do what I'm set out to do. I feel stuck. And these are very accomplished people,
Mm,
successful people, people who have reached certain things in their life where they shouldn't be feeling like they're underachieving or that they just can't get their act together. But I guess they have so much on their mind, or so many goals, and they are they feel like they're falling behind, or so many things that they have a constant sense of
mhm.
underachievement.
Definitely know that feeling
Mm-hmm.
of like always not feeling accomplished, and like that could actually stem from childhood days too, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
always, like no matter how much you're trying to reach, not never feeling fulfilled enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I do recommend, for me, what help, but meditation,
Yeah.
affirmations every morning, because I there was a point in my life where I really felt like I haven't
This.
accomplished
Yeah.
anything, and I was like, couldn't wake up in the mornings, just feeling like in a
Yeah.
rut. And yeah, it's what helped me was words of affirmations and meditation. Definitely something that helped me.
I think it's a common feeling. Like I like just talking to friends and people in my life. Like I think a lot of people feel this way. But
Hmm.
that was they were saying that was the number one thing that people actually seek out
Hmm.
help with. The number two is difficulty getting organized. Oh, I
Hmm.
struggle with this
Oh
every
wow.
single day. Yeah. So struggle with doing day to day activities like ADL. So like basic activities like uh, getting groomed, getting like food ready, and
Hmm.
clothes organized. It's just everything feels like too much.
Hmm.
So what you end up doing is not doing a lot of little things, which turn into huge obstacles and buildups. And so you might have missed appointments, lost checks, forgotten deadlines. So it's just very chaotic because of your life feeling so unorganized, and you're causing that disorganization. One of the things he suggested was to kind of relieve the chaos in your mind, a good way to start is finishing the projects that's in your home, like starting somewhere.
Because
So
when you don't feel organized in your environment, you don't feel organized in your space, and then it,
it
domino affects everything else.
everything. Yeah. And then number 3 is chronic procrastination and trouble getting started. So they apparently, with people with ADHD, they have anxiety over starting a task because they want it to be perfect. So they want everything to go. The next one is called many projects simultaneously, trouble with follow through. Definitely take as many projects as I can physically can, because in my mind, I forget the other projects that I'm doing, and I think, oh yeah, I can do this. So at one point, I had 6 jobs. I was working in 6 places. Took on 75 hours of work. That is crazy. And I had committed to it, and I know I'm not very good at quitting. So I was just miserable.
I feel
Thankfully,
like I feel like that also stems with the number one of your maybe sense of achievements too. You maybe
yeah.
wanted to also feel very like accomplished, and then
Mm-hmm.
adding more, topics, subjects onto your plate. We were just like scrambling. So I could see how that could be a complete like roller coaster of like disaster waiting to happen,
Yeah. Number 5 is tendency to say what comes to mind without considering timing or appropriateness. People with ADHD, I guess they are childlike, so they never really grow up. So they get excited about things. So when they're excited about things, they have to tell that idea because it came to their mind, regardless of how appropriate it is or what the timing is.
So a good tip for here would be just put it in your notes memo and give it 24 hours to marinate before you speak.
Yeah. So number 6 is a frequent search for high stimulation. So
Ooh.
they get they thrive on chaos. Like they
Mhm.
thrive on a little bit of conflict.
Mm.
So they always look for something novel, something engaging, something outside this world to match the chaos, the rush that's inside them. And then number 8 was easily distractible, trouble focusing, tendency to drift or tune out in the middle of conversation, with the with an ability to hyper focus on specific things at times. So they were saying, which this made me feel really good about myself, because I have been called out for stopping to listen to people in the middle of a conversation and completely zoning out. Like that, a lot of people with ADHD are highly creative, intuitive, and highly intelligent. So their brain just is so active that they have a hard time focusing on it. It's just working all the time. So um, they have unusually creative minds, that they have flashes of brilliance in the middle of disorganization and distractibility. And this is like not really a disorder. It's more
Mhm.
so a different way of thinking in the mind, people and their uniqueness and the way their brain works, but also allow them to flourish in the society, I think. So impatient, low tolerance for frustration is another symptom. So getting angry and withdrawn easily because they're so impatient with things, or they have
Mhm.
low tolerance for frustration. So they get number 12, they said, is the most dangerous symptom. It's impulsivity. So in action, so like it might be spending a lot of money, changing plans. And I think for me, this actually served. I'm an impulsive person. If something comes to my mind, I do it. I moved to, northern BC. That was an experience. I opened a business with no knowledge or even desire to open a business. It pushed me out of my comfort zone, these like sense of impulsivity, but I think if used properly, it taught me a lot. Next one is worrying needlessly, endlessly, looking for something to worry about and alternating with inattention and disregard for the actual worries. So you don't worry about what you should worry about, uh, like things that are actual issues and dangers, but then you might worry about like frivolous things, like
Mhm.
um, did I turn off the lights? Did I lock the door? Like I do a lot of like doomsday scenarios in my brain with no like nothing, like when,
Context to it. Yeah, you're
yeah,
just kind of like assuming those stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
that could be dangerous.
And then the next one was sense of insecurity. I struggle with this a lot. So my like no matter how stable your life is, you feel like it's gonna crash at any moment.
Yeah.
And
Especially if you're an entrepreneur, I feel like.
yeah, and I think part of it stems from, as an entrepreneur, when you start, you struggle. You struggle for the first couple years, maybe longer for some people. And like for me, for example, things have been relatively okay, and like I can kind of predict how my months are going to be. I work every day like things are going to crash tomorrow. And I personally thought it was coming from the fact that I did struggle in the beginning. Every entrepreneur goes that, or if it's just a part of ADHD, but that is something that, being a business owner, I'm very, very familiar with.
For another tip, maybe to help out, because I also feel this way.
Mhm.
Used to feel, and sometimes I get into the rut feeling of like not feeling sense of security. Also,
Mhm.
coming as an entrepreneurial mindset myself, I would say what helped me is going weekly, or if you can't do daily would be ideal, but weekly, to kind of track also your finances, to know how much you have in your savings, know how much you should be making maybe this month and how you can get to that. So those type of planning has helped me kind of to unwind and feel a sense of security. For anyone who is
Mhm.
listening, we could also cover those like topics later in the future about organizing your finances and so
Yeah.
forth in order to feel a little bit of security for future.
Nothing is secure. So you just have to be okay with the fact that it's working out for now. So you keep on doing it.
Gotta realize it's a mindset with
Mhm.
security and find that stability that you need to, because everything in life has an expiration date and anything can change.
And then the next one was mood swings, mood lability when disengaged from person or project. So sudden bad mood, then bad mood, all in a few hours. So they're more given to unstable moods. So they might be happy and angry and then sad and then like all over again. So things don't, it's not long lasting, but I'm not so bad with that. I've gotten better at it. Or
Yeah, just remember
yeah,
to always kind of, if you're listen to your body, if you need to take that day off, or something,
yeah,
or like, or at
yeah.
least like put the
Or
work
just give
aside.
give a heads up to the people around you that like you're not in the best. And number 6 is restlessness. So this is less in adults than children with ADHD. In adults, it presents more like a nervous energy. So they might be pacing, drumming fingers, shifting positions. They like might not be able to sit down, any things like that. So they're just like have a bit more of a nervous energy.
Mhm.
Number 7 is tendency for addiction. So it's whether it's substance, activity like eating, or overwork is also an addiction as well. And then number 18 is chronic self-esteem problems. So results of years of frustration, failure, even high achieved people might feel like defective, and they're not very self-observant, so they have inaccurate self-observation skills.
Ooh.
They don't gauge their impact on others well. And the huge one they were saying is family history. So let's go over how to recognize
Mhm.
and standing, at least we went over some symptoms of it, and we can go over the how to deal with it in a different episode, just because
Perfect.
it's been pretty long. But education is huge, and I think we covered in terms of how to recognize. For me, just knowing this was more about acceptance and having empathy.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this. We will link it in our post in our blog so people will be able to kind of go through all the 20 symptoms